Mayberry was always a quiet town, where life moved a little slower and love stories felt simple. But one romance on The Andy Griffith Show left fans puzzled for decades. Andy Taylor seemed to finally find the perfect woman, the sweet nurse Peggy McMillan, played by Joanna Moore. She was kind, charming, and clearly won Andy's heart. And then, just like that, she was gone. No goodbye, no explanation. So what really happened to Andy's love interest, and why did Joanna Moore suddenly disappear from Mayberry today? We're digging into the mystery behind one of the show's most talked-about storylines and the tragic story of the woman who played her before she ever stepped into Mayberry. Joanna Moore already had the look of a rising Hollywood star. Born Dorothy Joanne Cook in 1934, her childhood was anything but easy. A tragic accident took both of her parents when she was just a little girl. She was adopted by another family, and that's when her name changed to Joanna Moore. Despite such a heartbreaking start, Joanna pushed forward. By the late 1950s, she was breaking into Hollywood, taking guest roles in popular shows like Perry Mason, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and The Untouchables. She wasn't just another pretty face either. Critics praised her for her natural charm and emotional depth. By the time The Andy Griffith Show was looking for a love interest for Sheriff Andy Taylor, Joanna Moore was already a familiar face on TV screens across America. And when she walked into Mayberry as the caring nurse Peggy McMillan, fans thought this might finally be the woman who could win Andy's heart for good. When Joanna Moore first appeared in Mayberry during Season 3, she played Nurse Peggy McMillan, or simply Peggy. She wasn't just a background character. Peggy was warm, thoughtful, and had a spark that immediately set her apart. From the very first episode she appeared in, it was clear Peggy was different from Andy's usual dates. She wasn't shy, and she wasn't there just to flatter him. Peggy had her own mind, her own strength, and she quickly became someone Andy could lean on and even compete with. Over the course of just 4 episodes, fans got to see Peggy and Andy share campfires, quiet walks, and sweet conversations that hinted at something more serious. Peggy wasn't afraid to challenge Andy or tease him, and that made their relationship feel real, maybe even the beginning of something long-term. For many viewers, Peggy seemed like the perfect match for Sheriff Taylor. Finally, Andy had found a love interest who could balance his calm, down-to-earth style with her confident, nurturing personality. On screen, Andy and Peggy's relationship was sweet, but it wasn't without its bumps. In one episode, Andy clearly struggled with Peggy's independence. She wasn't a damsel waiting for Andy to take charge. Peggy was confident. She made her own choices, and sometimes that rubbed Andy the wrong way. There were also moments of jealousy. When one of Peggy's old friends came to town, Andy found himself uncomfortable, maybe even a little insecure. It was a side of Sheriff Taylor fans didn't often see, a reminder that even the calm, level-headed Andy could get flustered when it came to matters of the heart. But for all the little disagreements, there were plenty of tender moments too. Campfire songs, quiet talks, and playful teasing made it feel like Andy might finally be ready to settle down. For a brief moment in Season 3, many viewers believed Peggy McMillan could become Mrs. Taylor someday. And then, just as quickly as she appeared, Peggy was gone. After only 4 episodes, Peggy McMillan simply vanished from Mayberry. No dramatic breakup, no farewell scene, not even a passing mention from Andy or Barney. One week she was sharing songs around the campfire with Andy and Opie, and the next she was gone, as if she had never existed. For longtime fans, it was jarring. The show had introduced Peggy as Andy's most promising love interest yet, but then chose not to explain her absence. In a series known for its gentle continuity and small-town charm, Peggy's disappearance stood out like a loose thread. Even more puzzling, Andy Taylor never spoke her name again. For the rest of the series, It was as if the nurse had never walked into his life. To this day, viewers wonder what happened behind the scenes that caused Joanna Moore and her character, Peggy, to disappear so suddenly. So why did Peggy disappear without a trace over the years? Fans and TV historians have come up with a few theories. One idea is that Peggy just didn't quite fit the Mayberry mold. Her character was confident, stylish, even a little sophisticated compared to the small-town simplicity of Andy's world. Some believe the producers felt she was too big city for Mayberry, and that made her relationship with Andy feel out of place. Another theory points directly to Andy Griffith himself. In later interviews, Andy admitted that Joanna Moore was never meant to be his long-term love interest. He once said it was hard to find scripts that made sense if Andy had a steady girlfriend. The writers wanted the freedom to explore different storylines without tying Andy down. Of course, there's also the personal side. Joanna Moore was dealing with real struggles in her own life, including issues that would grow worse in the years ahead. While nothing official was ever stated, it's possible that those challenges made her a less reliable choice for a recurring role. And finally, some simply believe it was a creative decision. The show was testing out possible romances for Andy, and Peggy was one of several. Later, the writers introduced Helen Crump, who eventually became Andy's true partner on the series. In the end, no single reason was ever confirmed. What's left is a mix of behind-the-scenes choices, creative direction, and a bit of Hollywood mystery. After leaving Mayberry, Joanna Moore didn't disappear from television right away. She went on to appear in shows like Perry Mason, The Fugitive, Bewitched, and The Alfred Hitchcock Hour. For a while, it looked like her career was on a steady climb. In 1963, she married actor Ryan O'Neal, and together they had 2 children, including Tatum O'Neal, who would later become the youngest person ever to win an Academy Award. From the outside, Joanna seemed to have it all: a successful career, a Hollywood husband, and a growing family. But behind the scenes, life was much harder. Joanna struggled with personal demons. She battled addiction, legal troubles, and eventually lost custody of her children. Her marriage to O'Neal ended in divorce. And as the years went on, roles in Hollywood became fewer and farther between. By the 1970s and 80s, Joanna was appearing only in occasional guest roles, far from the rising star she once was. Sadly, her health declined, and she passed away in 1997 at just 63 years old, after a long fight with lung cancer. It was a tragic end to a life that began with so much promise and a sobering reminder of how fame in Hollywood can fade just as quickly as it arrives. Looking back, Joanna Moore's time in Mayberry was short, just 4 episodes, but her presence left a lasting impression. Nurse Peggy was strong, warm, and real, and for a brief moment, fans thought Andy Taylor had finally found his perfect match. Her sudden disappearance remains one of the show's great unanswered questions, a reminder that even in a gentle place like Mayberry, stories don't always tie up neatly. Behind the scenes, Joanna's real life was far more dramatic than anything written into the script. She experienced early success, heartbreaking struggles, and a tragic ending far too soon. Yet for those who love The Andy Griffith Show, she will always be remembered as Andy's nurse, the one who almost captured the sheriff's heart. So the next time you watch those Season 3 episodes, take a moment to remember Joanna Moore, not just as Miss Peggy, but as a woman whose story, both on and off screen, deserves to be remembered. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like to see more forgotten stories and hidden mysteries from classic TV, be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments who you'd like us to cover next.